We're going to have a little chat about what real humanitarian, philanthropic, human decency looks like. I know that some of you are going to say it's matters of opinion and matters of perception and all of that. And for someone like me, that's code for excuse making for people who either don't want to be a part of the solution, can't be a part of the solution, or they have subconscious programming that doesn't allow them to be a part of solutions for people or populations that's different than themselves. They have their own framework, they have their own programming and conditioning in which they've lived with. And when they're running from that space, the humanitarian code is cut off. And when I say humanitarian, I'm saying the human empathy, compassion, and decency code, for those who even have it, it's then cut off. Now, I'm going to make something really clear and very simple. I love simplicity. Humans have a tendency to overcomplicate things when they don't understand or it's too inconvenient to understand. Ladies, those who are women presenting, female or female presenting, you consider yourself a feminine. Any male or masculine presenting male that's operating from their true human decency code, okay, without all of the other fluff in between, without all the other programming, conditioning, and biases, without all of that, I guarantee, especially those who love to bark and rave about how well they were raised, okay, they love to have deep, long intellectual conversations about how they were, raised, to respect women and children, to fight for women and children, and to, be, old school talk, be a man, be a man, you don't let this be, you don't do that. I raised you. So you have a lot of people who love to rant and rave about them, they really derive a whole lot of pride from that. But I'm going to tell you, ladies, for somebody who is a survivor of systemic abuse, narcissistic abuse, and attempts to sabotage me and my son's life, okay, from a family perspective to an organized criminal perspective, weirdo, toxic, famous people who, I don't know what they was told, and everything else, okay, from someone who has my entire, and I'm over 50, almost 51. So for someone that has been targeted in that way, that has been subject to abusive family lines, karmic bloodlines, people who, they wear a costume for the world, but they're very abusive to their selected individuals, and then they act like America to the other selected individuals. But let me make it plain. I'm going to make this as plain and simple that even my son and his population could understand. Okay, in other words, you don't need a special education or certificate. You don't need, to have been in a certain demographic or environment to understand this basic principle. A man is not going to, and I'm going to add a disclaimer, if, I have to do this just to be fair, if he is in any position at all, okay, because there are some who aren't, but if he is in a position, meaning from where he stands, whatever way that he can, if this male or male presenting being is claiming to care of your health and your well-being, they are not going to allow you and your children to just wander about in the desert. Okay, I'm gonna make that crystal clear. I don't care if there's a meeting. I don't care if, with the exception of a very few, things there, because they may be having their own emergencies, so, be grounded with what I'm saying here. But for the most part, If they know they're going to do something, whether that be extended kindness, they see you, pick up you and your kid and give you a ride. Even if, listen to me, I need y'all to get this, because when you've been conditioned for abuse, they make you feel like, the conditioning and the program connects to this is to make you feel like you are an inconvenience by requesting and expecting basic human decency. That is the program. From the same people who love to, rant and rave about how good of a person they are. Okay? So if all that male presenting or male has to offer is, like I said, because it's based on who they are and where they're at. Because if they don't have no money, they don't have any money. If they don't have a place, for you to stay, they don't have a place for you to stay if that's your situation. If they can't provide any kind of resource or service, then they can't. But listen to me, from where they can, I guarantee you they will. They're not going to be shuffling you around, because people who pass the buck are people who don't want to be involved. Okay? That's just the truth. They don't want to be involved. They don't really want to help. So these are the types of people that would be telling you to call 211. These are the people who would be, researching for resources that you have already researched for. And if anything had been successful, you wouldn't be talking to them. You wouldn't be talking to them. And so the people who tend to do that are people who really don't want to help you guys. And that's not a man, period. He may have a penis, he may have a job, or if he's a female male presenting, I'm trying to be fair, because I don't like some religions. I don't have any hangups here. But, they're not going to be looking for a way to pass the buck. Have you tried this? Wasting your time, giving conversations for people who don't want to help, who don't really care. Because again, you get in real time in these situations. It's hot, it's 100 degrees, or let's say it's freezing, because it depends on the season and it depends on where you're at. But let's just say it's extreme weather, hot or cold, wherever you are, ladies. And you have a child or someone that is like a child. The ignorance of the world is killing a lot of people. Their ignorance and their laziness and intolerance for anything that's not convenient to them. People like that costume, though. People love the philanthropy costume. They love the humanitarian costume. They love that costume. They love what you can get from looking like you're that. You are not an inconvenience, ladies. You and your children. You're not wrong for being angry and furious at fake humanity. You're not extra, paranoid, entitled, all of the things that is code for abusers who want the position to cause somebody indirectly unnecessary suffrage when they could have been an answer. A man is not going to allow themselves to be used as a distraction while providing you no real help and solutions to your life, and allowing themselves to drain you of emotion, energy, time, and effort as you are constantly having these discussions, which is energy. Constantly feeling the need to explain yourself to people who don't have the capacity to even fucking understand. No real man is going to put himself in that position, and there's a lady and her children, there's a bigger fish to fry. His ego and his pride goes flush down the toilet because it's not about him. He's man enough in his manhood to understand, understand, and overstand that it's not about him. It's not about what he wants and needs out of a situation. It's not about him. His compassion and sovereignty and empathy is cut on. It's not about convenience. Oh, this doesn't go along with my schedule. A real man goes off his script and knows how to properly evaluate and determine what warrants immediate attention. This can wait. This lady and her child is outside. Bitch, what you on with him? This can wait. This meeting and discussion, we're overpaid as it is for meetings. This can wait. I want to go to Starbucks and stuff my fat ass with more shit. This can wait. A real man he puts his ego aside, ladies, because he has awareness that everything ain't about him. Not about his feelings. It's not about his emotions. It's not about, he realizes like, hey, especially if they're a man that's comfortable in their manhood, who they are, their identity, what they have established, they're not trying to prove anything to themselves or anybody else for that matter at the expense of someone that's in a vulnerable position. Not a real one. And I'm gonna make it plain and clear. There's plenty of naturally born males or male presenting people with a lot of money that is still not a man from the definition that I'm coming from. Okay? They're not going to ignore you and then call you at midnight after you and your children are roaming the street. A real man. I remember many years ago, or should I say a few years ago, I met somebody. This is 2 years ago, maybe 2 years, 3 years in the state of Texas. A real man is not going to co-sign abuse. They're not going to turn a blind eye. They're not going to be an Uncle Tom. They're not going to do any of those things for nobody, for no amount of money, for no clout, for no contract, for no group, for no organization, for no hoe, for no nothing. They're not doing that. For no church, for no religion, for nothing. Crazy family member. A real man has a spine. He's got a fucking spine as it pertains to his own. Even if his own family is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I guarantee you this, he gets to a point in his life, he ain't playing with their ass either. I guarantee you that. He will cut them off in a New York minute. Because he realized like, hey, I am a man. You're not going to be toxic and abusive, and you're not about to control me, and you're not about to have me cut off my humanity for your stanky ass. No. Fuck you and our blood relation. But our system and the world as we know it, ladies, has convinced us if you come from abusive systems and families and organizations and structures, it's in this. You have to do a lot of work to even unravel the fact that it's fucked up and that you actually deserve, just by way of being here and being a human, you shouldn't have to be licking ass cracks and bootstraps. You shouldn't have to have fucked somebody. You shouldn't have to be dating somebody. You shouldn't have to sell your own soul. And let me reference what I mean by selling of the soul. who are you? You shouldn't have to, in order to get basic kindness and decency from people, you shouldn't have to become a part of their cult, dear. You should not have to deny who you are. Whether they can wrap their consciousness and intelligence around it or not. Because we didn't say we're keeping it basic, okay? We're not saying you're going around asking for, I'm gonna try to be grounded and fair here. We're not saying that you ladies are going around asking for people to give you brand new cars and, please be grounded with what I say. Because there's a balance, there's fine lines and there's a balance here. I am speaking of basic human decency from where people are. So I'm going to make that plain because there's an entitled generation. I'm fully aware of the entitlement energy. What I find fascinating is there's a lot of people that's entitled to you, ladies. Entitled to having access to you. Entitled to know your business. Entitled to know your movement. Entitled to get you to talk to them. Entitled to be able to. That's still a form of entitlement. They feel entitled. And if you withdraw that and outgrow that, then these are the people who often want to subconsciously punish you or see you suffer for it, even if it's not in their conscious awareness that is really what they're running off of. Because a real man that is a self-aware man that sees through even their own bullshit, they can see through their own egoic ways. A real man, albeit imperfect man, but a real man is not going to just sit back if they are in a position to help you, dear. And if they need to watch you try harder first, that's indication, that's toxic abuse culture. The only people who operate like that are people who, like I said, they benefit from that culture, or they themselves had to unnecessarily suffer. And since they didn't have somebody with real human empathy, compassion, and kindness, then they feel like you should have to at least go through the level of hazing, bitch, and suffrage, okay? In which they feel that they had to endure. Okay, and both examples are toxic. A real man that's comfortable and strong in his manhood, that understands that everything and understands that everything ain't about him. It's not about his ego needing to be stroked. It's not about his reputation. It's not about what he can get out of the situation. It's not about a real man they're not perfect. They see through their own BS, just like a real woman. They're not perfect. But if they're self-aware enough, self-developed from the inside enough, from that emotional, conscious space, and they're of a certain age, which means a certain level of maturity has kicked in if they have been maturing outside of chronologically rotten. Let me say this for you ladies and anyone else who may come on here, and you're somebody that is displaced in your, state of Nevada, state of Texas, state of California, and you have worked with coordinated entry system bullshit motherfuckers. Let me say this to you, because some of you out here, you're highly intelligent. And some people want to punish you because of it. For some of you, some of this is people wanting to make a fool and mockery of you and punish you because you are. And so in part, this is why the things that you're experiencing with the whole program and the system, this is why they're doing what they're doing. But let me break something down, especially if you have a special case scenario situation. You're highly intelligent, so you know full well how to call 211. You know how to search online for resources. You know how to call and talk to people. When you have the resources and the means of transportation, you know how to show up and go and apply with the things and talk to people and all those sorts of things. The problem, the flaw, intentional and unintentional alike with this whole thing is, first and foremost, the assumption that you don't know how to do that. And the ignorance to the underlying issue that is causing whatever it is that you're facing as you attempt to navigate coordinated entry systems. And the willful and intentional, or just out of plain ignorance, ignoring that fact and thinking it's something that you need to just continue to look and try harder, is, for some of you, that's intentional by design to exhaust you. In other cases, it's ignorance, and either way is still unacceptable. In my case, I have an adult disabled son. I am able, and you probably are too, to speak very eloquently and articulately about that to every power that be from the top down. And as the system is set up, the way it is naturally set up is, listen to me plain, it's not that it can't be done, because it fucking can. Is there ignorant imps that's just tap dancing monkeys? And or in the case of that intentional stuff, when there is an agenda to separate you from your children. I'm going to say that plain and simple. Okay? Because it can be done. And for them to regurgitate policy, rules, procedures, and ordinances to you is a part of the bureaucracy bullshit. So when you intelligently communicate to people what you need, when you are expecting basic human decency and humanity, and they want to continue to recycle you through bullshit that you are probably more educated about it than they are, because you've been out there needing to actually use the resource, not just sit on your fat ass and scroll on the internet. And then tell somebody to try this and try that. Now, so in my case, the coordinated entry system in its basic function as it stands is not a suitable option. If they want to, and for you either, if this is you, because if they want to go there, you need to hear me. If they want to continue to push this propaganda, rules, regulations, policies, and ordinances and program procedures at you, then cut to the chase. Okay, then this is not a suitable program. This is not a suitable program for me and my family. Now, what else can be done? Let's get in. People love to talk about how they're into the solution. Okay, let's get into the solution then, motherfuckers. What else can be done? Okay, we have determined that the coordinated entry system, as it stands, is not something suitable based on our demographic and our circumstance. We're survivors of community organized harassment, stalking, domestic violence, adult abuse. We're dealing with someone who's disabled, with intellectual impairment, and the only thing that they have left is their one parent. So fuck you and your attempt to prematurely force that situation. There are people that are going to say one day their parent is going to die and they're going to end up, oh, I've heard it all, baby, from intellectual to idiot. I've heard it all. One day you're going to be gone and they're going to have to, that is correct. But this is also why, while the parents or the caretakers and the people are alive, that they're fighting to the death to give it all that they have to try to preserve and then do those things on their terms. That should be priority. That shouldn't be the automatic go-to. It shouldn't be the automatic go-to to separate families. And now we have a team that specializes, fuck you and your team, okay? If they really understood trauma as they claim to, if they really did understand the dynamics of intellectual impairment and autism, if they really did understand the nature of what has taken place for the child, the family unit, then they would understand that it's possibly going to do more damage than good to take them away from the one constant that they have. Ain't about your sophisticated ass team that went to got a fucking certificate. He don't know them. They remove the humanness out of what programs are supposed to be. They melt together all demographics that are displaced, and that's ignorance. It's ignorance. Forcing these individuals to be environments where people have, and again, this is with honor and respect to the populations. I'm going ratchet off on the system, not on the people that they serve. So this is not, we don't know people's life, but to mush it together and subject these sensory overload clients, these intellectually impaired, in places where people have been in skid row, barking at the sky with fleas and ticks. Again, this is with honor and respect. This is just the observation and context of these types of situations. And people who could do something and do better and don't, that's the topic of the video. They are not a man. And to sit up there and smile at you and play in your face, they are super duper quadruple not a man. That is someone who is possibly an agent that has been made an offer to keep you talking to get information. That is somebody who's not self-aware, who's got an ego trip, because it's going to vary for some of you. Not all of these people are directly involved, but their ego is the problem, and their lack of true human empathy and compassion. I'm not going to have you talking for 30 minutes, an hour, while you and your children spin out there in the heat while they sit comfortably on their pompous ass. wanting to ask you about your job skills. People don't have any awareness. That's what I'm saying. You're a man that can see that you're in crises or trauma or dealing with something serious is not going to sit here and interview with you about your goddamn skills, ladies. They're not. The men that are aware, you've given them enough information for them to know and be aware of what you're dealing with. They're not going to be interviewing you about the day in the life of all the people you grew up with and everything that happened over and over again. They're not going to be interviewing you. Okay, well, what about a job with skill sets? So that's real trauma experts, real crisis experts, or those who consider themselves well-versed in developing that, understand that you ain't supposed to be fucking dealing with that. You're supposed to be dealing with the immediate situation, and you get to that. The person is already in overload. They're in survival mode. They're having to constantly think and figure out things from one moment to the next. They don't need a bunch of interrogators that's useless. Sacks of shit. They don't need that. That's not helping their nervous system. That's not helping them to problem solve. Anybody worth their salt understands. And that's why I say some people need to get out the game. They need to retire last year. They need to get out the game. They didn't got jaded. So they're not suitable and fitting no more for the game. They need to get out. Because in that industry they got burned. They ran into people that was running the game. They ran into people that's just looking to take advantage of the system. They ran into people that don't want to do nothing for themselves. They ran into people that's just, making excuses and have a toxic cycle. And they became jaded, and so now they want to become wardens in these programs instead of actual true humanitarian supporters. A real man is not going to interrogate you while you're in crises. They're going to want some basic information, but it's for the purposes of how they can help. And after that, all of their focus and attention is on being a part of the solution for you. Not a distraction. Not having you spin your wheels and talking this and talking that and over there. Meanwhile, the real issue that is requiring immediate focus is not being dealt with. If a real man can get you an Uber and a Lyft and is in a position to do so, he's not a man. If he can't give you a ride and he's in a position to do so, he's not a man. If he is in a position to offer you some kind of room and board, and he has the means, maybe he's got security, maybe he has the means in his life to kind of be okay with it, and he doesn't do it, he's not a man. People that hold grudges and pretend to not hold grudges because it's not a good look to look like you're somebody who is holding a grudge because you're feeling salty about something not going a certain way, even though you pretend to be evolved and past, because like me, I can deal with rejection. I don't have issues with, several folks from my past just because they chose someone differently, or they went on and I wasn't the one, or even the ones that ghosted me, like they just dropped off. And okay. In cases where there was no real toxic abuse there, I kind of get over that. I don't really hold that. Now, where people was doing some crazy abusive shit to me, but that's a separate thing, ladies. That means the issue was to do with the abuse, not the fact that you're being ghosted and dropped off or it didn't work out. Those are different. And if somebody reached out to me that ghosted me, and we didn't have bad blood, I mean, I didn't abuse them, they didn't abuse me, it just fell off. I may not want to be their BFF. I may not necessarily, but I'll be honest about it. Number one, because I'm a straight shooter, then I'm going to be honest about that. Period. I'll be honest. And then if that's not the case, if I don't have any, I'm like, oh, and they're telling me something happened to them. Okay, I have a level of basic human decency. If this motherfucker wasn't abusing me and shit, it's like, okay, it didn't work. It didn't. Get over it, Brandy. It's 1,000 years ago. It didn't. They didn't like me. Okay, they found someone better, or maybe for all I know, something happened to their life. I don't know why. We assume a whole lot of shit. We assume. We don't know. We don't know why somebody could have possibly, maybe chaos hit their life. And all of their attention went into trying to navigate that. We don't know. And if there wasn't any real abuse dynamic, any dysfunctional stuff. But anyway, let me go, because I got surviving to do here to figure out, man, my son's next move. And I just wanted to come on and make it plain. Coordinated entry systems is not for everybody, and they advertise all of this stuff online, and you all need to be caught up that it's not quite that way. You all get excited because you type something in the search engine bar and you go, oh, they say they have a 90-day program and look at the pictures, you can go stay there. It's not that simple. And the only people who know that it's not that simple are the ones who have been happening to navigate the system. So start believing people when they tell you what they've attempted to do. Just because you saw something online, it doesn't mean that that's actually how it goes. Some people are disqualified from these programs because of their bureaucracy. And then they are trying to force people into separate scenarios and stuff like that. And there are some people who are not ready to separate their families. Understood?